Hello dear learners, I welcome you all to this module on acquiring academic vocabulary. I am Dr. Pallavi Gogoi of Krishnakanta Handike State Open University. In the previous module, we have discussed in details English for academic writing as well as writing a research in English. In this module, we shall take up a detailed study on acquiring academic vocabulary. So the main objectives of this module are to explain the importance of vocabulary learning for academic writing, to describe the various types of academic writing, to discuss the necessity of reading and writing for academic purposes, to grasp the use of high-frequency words with technical meanings, to provide a list of frequently used academic words, and to highlight technical and specialized vocabulary learning. To begin with, the term vocabulary refers to the stock of words that a person knows and uses to express himself or herself in a particular language. A person who is proficient in a particular language is generally known to have a good stock of words and a sound knowledge of using words appropriately. Vocabulary can be divided into two distinct types, namely active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. Now, active vocabulary refers to the words that a person knows and actively uses in his or her daily use of a language. On the other hand, passive vocabulary refers to the words that a person has acquired and knows but does not use them as such in his or her daily use of language. In order to acquire a good vocabulary or to expand one's knowledge of vocabulary, one must refer to a dictionary and thesaurus. Also, a person must read extensively in order to acquire a good knowledge on the usage of words in a language. As Steve Hart notes in his work titled Expand Your English, the key aspects of acquiring and retaining vocabulary are understanding, that is knowing the various definitions of the term and the words the term is used alongside, the context, that is knowing when and how to use the term, and familiarity, that is encountering the term regularly and in various contexts. Let us then discuss vocabulary learning, particularly for academic purposes, with a clear approach. Now, let us come to vocabulary learning for academic purposes. When it comes to vocabulary, it is both a conscious and an unconscious effort of acquiring a good stock of words, and it is a continuous learning process. When we actively engage in learning new words, it is a conscious effort as we are aware that the purpose is to develop a knowledge of new words and the required means to do the same. However, we also tend to unconsciously learn new words when we do not necessarily make an effort to or intend to do so. For instance, we pick up words by hearing, overhearing, reading, or coming across new words and the way, or rather the context in which these are used. Therefore, knowingly or unknowingly, we learn and pick up, or rather acquire, new words, which are then retained in our long-term memory. Have you ever noticed the same in your own case? Does learning new words capture your interest? To consciously and actively engage in learning new words every day is an interesting activity and necessary for developing a good vocabulary or stock of words. Even the word game, popularly known as Scrabble, could be a fun way of engaging and even testing one's proficiency in forming words and its stock. Have you ever come across this game or heard of it? It is worth a try. Now let us take up word knowledge. While delving on vocabulary learning and the process of acquiring word knowledge in an article titled Developing Students' Vocabulary Effectively and Efficiently, the author noted that vocabulary is cyclical, especially because of the aspect of learning words which constantly occurs through repetitions and reinforcements, right? This article provides a table on the various types of word knowledge, that is the process of learning and the use of words, which is resourceful and shall benefit your learning as well. You may take a look at the table to gain a better idea for yourself. The table is divided into three parts, that is type of knowledge, what is involved, followed by an example. The author author suggests that the integration of vocabulary or word knowledge with good reading and writing skills, as well as spoken and listening skills, makes the learning process all the more engaging. Let us then discuss in details the aspect of reading and writing for academic purposes. Although you may have come across detailed aspects of the same in the previous module, the present module offers a comprehensive idea on the same because it is so deeply related. Therefore, even as reading and writing always goes hand in hand, we shall discuss reading and writing for academic purposes separately for your easy reference. Now coming to reading for academic purposes first. It is said that a good reader makes a good writer as well. Perhaps it is because the groundwork for good writing comes from the collective stock of our extensive reading. Good reading practices not only stirs our imagination or enhances our knowledge of the word, but it also enriches our creativity and develops the power of our self-expression. We can learn much from the great output of knowledge, experience, and creativity that writers pour into their works. Reading broadens our mental horizons, transforms our thoughts, sharpens our intellect, illuminates our being, and inspires our lives in many ways. Reading for academic purposes requires an intelligent approach of more than simply skimming or scanning a text. Now, you may be wondering about these two terms. While skimming involves a quick reading of a text in order to gain at least a vague idea of the content, scanning involves a more detailed reading of a text. These two reading activities are extremely important in order to develop the practice of effective reading. I'm sure you'd agree. While reading for academic purposes, one generally refers to texts such as subject-specific books, journals, articles, academic papers, reviews, case studies, project works, theses, dissertations, manuals, etc. Referring to dictionaries or thesaurus may not be as detailed, extensive, or elaborate as reading any other general academic texts. Academic texts demand intelligent reading, critical thinking, and interpretation. In general, any kind of academic text focuses on conveying or putting across core ideas, pinpointed objectives, original analysis, thesis, or argument, or new perspectives, among others. The onus of grasping the provided information, comprehending, and learning from it mainly rests on the reader. If one engages in superficial reading, he or she may not benefit at all from the reading exercise. Thus, reading for academic purposes requires one to be active, interested, inquisitive, engaged, open, reflective, and also critical in order to develop or sharpen a person's cognitive abilities. When one engages in extensive academic reading, he or she also opens himself or herself to learning new words and new terminologies. I'm sure you would agree with that. Over the course of time, one tends to naturally develop a vocabulary or repertoire of words and more specifically, frequently used academic words or terminologies. Now, J. Mortimer notes that a mix of words can have different meanings, connotations, or interpretations between two persons. However, terminologies or terms always carry fixed meanings, thereby leaving no scope for alternate meaning or interpretation between two persons. So terms are always fixed and words are always playful. Reading critically for academic purposes refers to an in-depth reading and one's well-considered analysis of what is evident in the text. Sometimes it also requires the reader to engage in reading between the lines in order to figure out what is indirectly implied in the text by the author. So that is reading between the lines. Whenever you go through a text, try to mark the keywords, terminologies, and phrases in order to look up their meanings in a dictionary. This will enable you to develop a good academic and overall vocabulary as well. As Mortimer highlights the role of dictionaries as quote-unquote extrinsic aids of reading, he opines that it is important to be familiar with the general use of dictionary, including its systematic word order, symbols, and abbreviations. Look at what he has to say about the same. Quote-unquote, if you look upon a dictionary merely as a spelling book or guide to pronunciation, you will use it accordingly, which is to say, not well. If you realize that it contains a wealth of historical information crystallized in the growth and development of language, you will pay attention not merely to the variety of meanings listed under each word, but also to their order and relation. Reading has different stages, right from the elementary to the intellectual level. and developing good reading skills provides one with a rewarding experience of learning. In addition, it is important to practice note-taking while reading the content of a text, as well as note-making. Now, you must remember that note-taking and note-making has a slight difference. Note-making is important in order to synthesize one's reading and learning by creating effective notes. So, one must build an acumen of reading, analyzing or evaluating and then synthesizing it into one's own critical opinion. Now let us discuss writing for academic purposes. Academic writing calls for a certain formal approach to writing and a comprehensive idea of its requirements as well. This will enable you to acquire the necessary skill for effective writing. In the book titled Becoming an Academic Writer, Goodson discusses some of the smart ways to approach academic writing, particularly through the POWER model. Now you may be wondering, what is the POWER model? Promoting outstanding writing for excellence in research. That is the POWER model. P-O-W-E-R, POWER model. This model resulted from the work done by Peter Elbow, Robert Bruce, Joseph Moxley and Todd Taylor, and Michael Mayneth as well, which was to theorize methods and approaches to writing. It first began with Peter Elbow's development of theory on the writing process over which a writer can gain mastery and power. Thus, it forwarded the significance of writing with power that a writer could exercise with his or her own expertise, while highlighting the stirring desire or drive in a writer to be published and read, which marks the beginning of that creative urge for writing. Goodson also opines that this itself is the opening of the writing journey that begins with experience and expertise. Peter Elbow first forwarded his theoretical approach with a view towards encouraging a writer to experiment with words, struggle with self-expression, to reach out to readers in order to gain critical reception, and finally to learn from the entire writing experience and hone it with time. Thus Goodson, while discussing Elbow's approach, writes thus. You may take a look at the quote unquote, according to Elbow, when writers are comfortable generating initially messy texts, are eager to hear readers' reactions to what they wrote, and are motivated to rewrite their texts to incorporate these reactions, only then will they begin to enjoy the writing process and the power it engenders. So basically, Elbow emphasized on the importance of the free flow of writing. Now, there are different types of academic or research-based writings, such as research papers, journal articles, book and article reviews, book chapters, working papers, conference papers, seminar, webinar papers, dissertations, doctoral theses, case studies, research reports and projects, among others. To a certain extent, academic writing is rigid in its approach and more scholarly or research-oriented. While academic writing stresses on prescribed formats with relevant guidelines and specifications, it also gives importance to the quality of content that is expected to be derived through proper research and study. Thus, it is more objective in its approach, where the writer or research scholar is focused on the objective of his or her writing. The personal touch or personal reflection of the writer or research scholar are altogether discouraged in academic writing. I hope you will keep that in mind. For instance, the pronoun I or we are to be avoided and instead replaced with terms such as the study, the paper, the present research or the present work, the article, the review, etc., in which the focus is on the work rather than the writer or academic scholar or researcher. You may know that the use of I or we lends a more informal or conventional style in which the writer makes his or her presence felt. As Helen Sword notes in her work titled Stylish Academic Writing in the Sciences and Social Sciences, the practice of having co-authors working on a particular area is common. Often they use the pronoun we while writing, yet they also make it a point to remain distant or careful not to divert from the objective of their writing. Also, Sword notes that the importance of choosing the right style and the right sentence constructions which can enhance one's writing. Here is what Sword says, quote unquote, a carefully crafted sentence welcomes its readers like a comfortable rocking chair, bears its reader across chasms like a suspension bridge, and helps its reader navigate tricky terrain like a well-hewn walking stick. A poorly crafted or uncrafted sentence, on the other hand, functions more like a shapeless log tossed into a river. It might or might not help you get to the other side, depending on how strong the current is and how hard you are willing to kick. and sometimes the reader of an academic text has to kick very hard indeed. Thus, any form of academic writing necessitates apt usage of words, clear sentences, following prescribed formats, quality content, and crisp writing that is reader-friendly. Academic writings should ideally be free from any form of jargons or unnecessary use of words or phrases. You must always remember that. It is necessary to have apt titles that is directed towards the reader's interest by providing a quick clue towards the theme, subject, area, or idea. It is also necessary to have apt titles that is directed towards the reader's interest by providing a quick clue towards the theme, subject, area, or idea on which the writing is focused or concerned. In addition, it is necessary to provide relevant examples in academic writing in order to provide a clear concept, idea, information, analysis, inferences, findings, etc. to the readers. Further, academic writing also requires the use of proper citation styles with regard to the references or the work cited, that is, the sources of the research work or the bibliography at the end of a scholarly work. Thus, Sword emphasizes on the three ideals of academic writers that always holds them in good stead, which according to her are quote-unquote communication, craft, and creativity. Mentioning quote-unquote communication implies respect for one's audience, craft, respect for language, creativity for academic endeavor. While discussing the craft of good writing and some of its basic characteristics, Jinsa mentions that one must avoid clutter in one's writing and to find one's own style of writing, which is very, very important. This is true for all kinds of writing, where it is important to choose words carefully while building up one's writing and expressing oneself clearly to the reader. Any type of writing must be coherent and well organized with an easy flow from paragraph to paragraph. In fact, Jinsa points at unity as the quote-unquote anchor of good writing and states the importance of conveying to the reader the written content in the easiest way. Also, it is important for good academic writing to be free from any form of grammatical error and to be punctuated properly. Swales and Freak in their discussion on academic writing also point to the importance of good paraphrasing in academic writing, or in other words, rewriting the selected content of an original work in one's own words. This is a common practice while conducting research or library work for any form of academic pursuit. Otherwise, if any form of text is copied word to word without due citation or reference to the author, then it shall amount to plagiarism. You must remember that academic integrity is utmost important in academic research and writing, and that committing plagiarism stands against the ethics of research and academic pursuits. Now, let us specifically discuss identifying and categorizing academic vocabulary. It is as important to know the use of appropriate academic words and gain a good vocabulary for one's academic and research writings. Steve Hart, in the work titled Expand Your English, provides a discussion of the usage of 200 common academic words, which is provided in the form of a compiled list in the reading material for your quick reference. So you must refer to the reading material for this list. You would do well to access or read the above mentioned book by Steve Hart and also look up the meanings as well as the usage of such well identified and listed academic words. Now coming to the term high-frequency words. You may or may not be familiar with the term high-frequency words. Interestingly, we use certain set of words frequently in our everyday communication without even realizing it, whether it is through spoken or written means of communication. This stock of high-frequency words developed right from the early years of one's life. In simple words, high-frequency words are referred to words that are frequently used or occur frequently in our day-to-day communication. You may note that there are 4 different types of words such as high-frequency words, academic words, technical words, and low-frequency words, as also described by Jamila. While the best source of common academic words in a particular language is the academic word lists, Technical words are more subject-specific, drawing from its respective common usage of words or terminologies. Now, in contrast, low-frequency words in contrast to high-frequency words are words which are hardly used. For example, two persons from different subjects, say science and literature, would have hardly any common terminologies or shared terminologies, and both would have low-frequency vocabulary outside their own subjects of interest. Dear learner, you may refer to the following website for the rather long list of Barron's GRE high-frequency 333 words vocabulary list. It is very resourceful. Also, it always helps to refer to standard lists of high-frequency words, such as the Fry's list, which is targeted mainly for school learners, but is still handy in general, or the Barron's list of high-frequency words, which provides a comprehensive idea on frequently used words that often go unnoticed. A reference to such lists shall provide you with a good idea on these well-identified high-frequency words. Now let us discuss the role of technology and specialized vocabulary learning. Acquiring a good vocabulary in itself requires a lot of time, consistent effort, interest and practice, let alone acquiring a specialized vocabulary. However, it is always possible to expand and develop one's knowledge of good vocabulary, academic vocabulary, which is common to all subjects, as well as subject-specific vocabulary, which is a must for all kinds of effective communication or expression. In this learning process, technology also plays a significant role in providing easy access to online dictionaries, specialized academic word lists, also known as AWL in the short form, through websites, videos, tutorials, and related e-books. It was Professor Avril Coxhead, School of Linguistics and Applied Language Studies, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, who is credited for having compiled a resourceful academic word list for her MA thesis in the year 2000, which is widely accepted and referred to today. Coxhead is presently engaged in her research work on technical vocabulary. The academic word list, or the AWL, includes widely used academic words, that is a total of 570 word families, which is further divided into a total of 10 sublists. While preparing the list, Coxhead had studied academic texts across disciplines, which is targeted for teachers as well as learners. So the academic word list is very handy and very resourceful. This long list can be accessed through the following link. The above link shall provide information on academic word lists, the academic word list sublist families, that is in the PDF format that can be downloaded, and related useful links. Technology has changed the learning systems across the world, as technology is now well integrated in the educational or academic learning systems and research studies. It is important to equip ourselves with technological skills so that we can access a wide range of resources that can leverage the constant process of learning. Megan Clark, in her research work on the area, states that technology aids in English language learning, that is ELL, to a great extent and provides a quote-unquote springboard of effective language learning for English learners. Here is what she expresses, quote-unquote, much research is based on the premise that technology can help motivate students to be more engaged in reading, especially when they interact with the text using certain interactive technological tools. Technology using audio and video, cameras, software programs, and electronic learning programs can be used to enrich instructional activities. Further, Clark opines that whether it is the simple use of technology such as audiovisual materials and PowerPoint presentations in the classrooms or e-books, and the educational apps, particularly in iPad, these become much more engaging for learners. Thus, digital repositories and web resources are also useful in language learning and extends outside traditional classroom learning. Now coming to the end of this module, the module defines the term vocabulary, highlighting the difference between active and passive vocabulary. It takes up the importance of vocabulary learning for academic purposes, along with the development of both reading and writing skills. Also, the reading material provides related exercises on the appropriate usage of academic vocabulary. You must attend these, and standard lists of academic vocabulary for your easy reference. While it provides a list of common academic words, it also discusses the importance of expanding one's ability or potential of gaining a sound vocabulary. In addition, it highlights the role of technology and specialized vocabulary learning. Thus, we come to the end of this module on acquiring academic vocabulary. I hope you would make it a habit of referring to the dictionary frequently and be inquisitive to take a look at the provided links for the academic word lists. Hope you all enjoyed the module and shall benefit from it. Thank you and all the best.